I hate writing. You're not supposed to say that. Writing is such a noble enterprise. It's a special expression of the soul. Writing is the very linchpin of scholarship and reflection. But I loathe it. I would rather give blood than construct a sentence. I don't mind speaking sentences. I just spoke one. I just spoke another. I don't mind making sounds with my mouth, but actually constructing a sentence is painful to me. Some people say to me that it's impressive that you preach without notes. You must have a good memory. No, I just hate devising sentences. My emails are uber concise because that whole subject, object, verb thing, I just don't like it. And beyond sentences, paragraphs are a form of medieval torture. Who defines what a paragraph is anyway? It's a complete mystery to me. Is a paragraph one thought? Could it be a thought and a half? Could a paragraph be 2 or 3 thoughts? Who determines what a paragraph is? I think paragraphs are a fascist form of control on the meanderings of the mind. I think you should just keep talking. I think a whole book could be one paragraph. I know you're judging me right now that I don't like writing, but I love to read. You see, the world needs both. Here is the yin and yang. If we only had writers but no readers, it wouldn't work. So I'll read and leave the writing to other people. Writing is so difficult for me that school was episodically horrifying. I'm a good test taker, and I'm engaged in the ideas a lot. But every once in a while, in almost every class, you had to write a paper. And it was so painful to me. Still is. Now I'm working my way up to trying to explain to you, to share with you, a moment of bliss in my life, one of the greatest moments of ecstasy. It was about 20 years ago. A September morning, I was living in California. I was up really early. I was in my office at church. It was about 5 a.m. and an email came in from Boston. It's 8 a.m. in Boston. An email came in from the chair of my committee saying my dissertation had been accepted. I leapt from my chair. I literally began to dance in my office. It would be the end of paragraphs for me. I wouldn't have to have paragraphs in my life anymore. It was 245 pages of paragraphs that was pure torture to me, and it was over. The thrill, I can't even convey to you. If I could write, maybe I could convey it to you. The bliss of this moment. And right away I thought, caramel macchiato. I had to celebrate, and I think caramel macchiatos are so decadent. Now, I'm not a prudish Puritan, but I think you're only allowed maybe 5 caramel macchiatos in your life, maybe firstborn child and on the honeymoon and finishing your dissertation. So I drove over to Starbucks. In the thrill of this moment, to have a celebrative caramel macchiato, I walked up to the barista and I ordered, and he said, "Have you heard?" I said, "What?" "A plane just flew into the World Trade Towers." I said, "What?" And he pointed me to the TV in the corner, and we all began to watch. And do you remember how the confusion of the moment, and then as it developed, you saw that it was an attack? Do you remember that? It'll be 20 years this September. Now, in the months following that moment, the ministers and clergy in San Mateo, we began to sense that a new and virulent form of of anti-Muslim sensibility was on the rise. Understandable, Americans knew so little about Islam, and we began to attach it to this attack. Now, the president at the time was crystal clear, and I really appreciated his language, that this was not about religion, that this was a terrorist extremist group. But we began to sense in talking with our Muslim brothers and sisters that this was a dangerous moment for discrimination and hate towards them. And so in those months following 9/11, we began to form a multi-faith network in San Francisco. It became one of the biggest in the United States. Some 500 to 600 clergy, Muslims, Catholic priests, Buddhists, Hindus. We began to gather for symposiums to increase our cultural literacy, because we realized at that moment, back in 2001, even as ministers, we practically knew nothing about Islam. Practically nothing. And we tried to begin to learn and share. It was during that time, right after 9/11, that I put up a massive banner on the church that just said, "Jesus and Muhammad are friends." There was a lot of controversy about that banner, but Jesus and Muhammad are friends. These two religions are deeply familiar and come from the same roots to one another. That was 20 years ago, but I think it's still the case that Americans don't know much about Islam at all. And frankly, it's understandable. You see, there are so few Muslims in the United States, only about 3.5 million. That's barely 1% of our entire population. So in America, as far as encountering other religions, really in America, 95% of people you meet, listen to me, 95% of everyone you meet will either be Christian or non-religious. Did you hear that? That's what Americans would know, either being Christian or just being non-religious. The next 5%, such a small minority, is all of the religions combined, right? All the other religions. So I'm in a sermon series called Encounter, Being Christian in a Multi-Faith World. But the truth is, there's not much encounter at all. You probably have never been to Friday night prayers at a local mosque. You might glancingly know a Muslim or two, but your chance of having an encounter with the religion of Islam is almost zero in America. And yet somehow, even in that complete absence of encounter, an animosity can fester, and prejudice and discrimination and stereotypes. It goes deep and long into our history, this enmity between Islam and Christianity through the ages and around territorial disputes and the Crusades in Jerusalem. We seem to have been two religions opposed. A little green man comes out of his space saucer. He's from Mars, and he says, "I have been studying your religions on the planet Earth, and I have a question. How can it be that Islam and Christianity seem to have so much animosity? How can this be? They share the same roots. They worship the same God, the God of Abraham. You both have holy books that talk about Moses and Noah and Adam and Elijah and Jacob and King David and Jesus and the Virgin Mary and Joseph. You share all those figures of faith, and Muslims believe in a virgin birth of Jesus and that he was a great prophet. You share so much. You worship the same God. Why is there so much tension and misunderstanding?" asked the Martian. Well, maybe it's because we're so close. It's some virulent form of sibling rivalry when religions are so entwined and similar. I've been trying to lift out one aspect of each religion during this sermon series to just revel in. Now, this is an artifice to lift out one aspect of a religion, but I'm not trying to help you understand the whole religion. I'm just trying to pull out something beautiful in each given religion. I could, when speaking of Islam, I could speak about the 5 pillars, or at least the ritual that every Muslim prays each day. Do you see how they embed the practice of honoring God in their daily lives 5 times a day, those set moments of prayer? I could talk about that type of embedded practice. My friends, if you even just thought about God and acknowledged a higher power, if you even thought about God 5 times a day, that would make your experience of the day so much different. I could talk about their scriptures, the Quran, and the moments of beauty and love. But I've chosen today to talk about Sufism. Do you know about Sufis? So a Sufi is not part of a given sect within Islam. Sufism isn't some denominational aspect. It's a dimension of Islam. Sufism refers to a more mystical approach that you can experience through dedication and prayer. You can experience God for yourself. The Sufis are the mystical aspect of Islam. And it becomes a type of love mysticism that is beautiful. The Sufi believes that everything is enfolded in love, and that through the right type of dedication and focus, you can become immersed in the love of God. You can experience it and know it yourself. As one Sufi said, God is love, prophet is love, religion is love. From the smallest grain of sand to the highest heavens, all are enraptured by love. Sufism, this mystical approach to that all-encompassing love. If you want to learn about Sufism, listen to the poet Rumi, 13th century Persian poet, a Sufi mystic, Islamic scholar, one of the great Muslims of the ages. Listen to his poetic words called The Flame of Love. How long wilt thou dwell on words and superficialities? A burning heart is what I want. Consort with burning. Kindle in thy heart the flame of love, and burn up utterly thoughts and fine expressions. O Moses, the lovers of fair rights are one class. They whose hearts and souls burn with love are another. Oh, do you hear this Sufi wisdom? That religion ultimately is not about words and superficialities. That religion ultimately is not about rituals and practices. It's about a heart on flame with love. Oh, the beauty of Islam. Listen to Rumi again, the way of love. The way of love is not subtle argument. The door there is devastation. Birds make great sky circles of their freedom. How do they learn that? They fall. And falling, they're given wings. Oh, do you hear his poetry? How do the birds learn to make great sky circles of freedom? How do they learn that? They fall. And it's in the falling they're given wings. For the Sufi mystic, for any Muslim, the idea is to completely surrender yourself to God's love, to give yourself to it. Do we even know how to fully give ourselves to anything anymore? Do we really know what it's like to surrender oneself? Well, like a bird, if you could fall into God's love, you would be given wings. Oh, the beauty of Islam. Islam means surrender to God. to fall into that love so that then you are given wings. Let me end today with a great poem by Rumi that goes right to the heart of the Sufi understanding or an Islamic sensibility. It's called The Guest House. Listen to this. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight, the dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Hear the Sufi sensibility, the Islamic insight. Each human being a guest house. You are a consciousness. You are one that experiences. You are an experient. And in those momentary experiences, you can become the guest house for the divine. You are a consciousness. Religion, if it is anything, is an experience. It's a feeling. I don't mean it's some fancy theological thought or belief. It could be just a mere intimation or an intuition of God, of that love in which you are enfolded. You are a guest house. Welcome in. The poem talks about even welcoming in our shadow or the darker things in life. Welcome it all, because as part of that, you will be welcoming in the divine. Religions aren't a bunch of words or superficialities. It's consciousness. It's your own experience, feeling, thought. It's that love you have in your heart right now. I know you have love in your heart. I know you do. Amen.